Hello, everyone. This is MGTOW Jesus. This is my first recording for YouTube, so bear with me here. Look, it's been about 3 years since my digestion of the red pill. I've been through failed relationships, destroyed my identity. I had to go through personal reflection and come to terms with what the world of women and men have become. After realizing that I'm MGTOW, I've pretty much forsaken all women. I try to rationalize their behavior, and not excusing their behavior, but to better understand it and to better understand their nature. Once I'd achieved this, everything pretty much became very clear. My interest in women had completely declined, and my wealth began to accumulate. I've begun to see their actions and words in my regard take shape, and I've noticed a pattern here. It's the subtle nuances of manipulation, guilt, coercion, to the contradictive and outrageous demands they make. What's seemingly irrational is actually their just entitlement to my time, money, emotions, and thought. And it's just way too offensive for me to even stomach their presence for much longer than necessary. So I began to write down all my experiences from childhood, puberty, adulthood, just what I've had to experience dealing with women. And so to better translate my ideology here, I'll try to separate this concept into just a couple sections for you and bring this evidence to form a hypothesis. Now, I've been testing this out and I've created a theory, but I'm trying to give Nawaltz a chance. So whenever they want to show themselves, that'd be great. So far, they failed to do so. So here's the first thing. You think that women are irrational? Well, here's how we explain it. First, section 1. They are always skeptical of men. Always. Women understand that the ultimate goal is procreation. They understand that ultimately the man they are associating with would gladly have sex with them, be it his agenda or innocent intentions. When women understand this force of nature and clearly hold a healthy skepticism of every man they associate with, they expect you to lie to them, trick them, mislead them, temporarily provide them with a safety net, whatever, until your true nature finally reveals itself, i.e., the horny guy, right? The frat guy. But with this level of skepticism, they easily excuse the next logical step in their actions. Now, their next logical step, when they have absolute skepticism of you and a completely Darwinian ultimate morality of you, then it just makes sense. They've dehumanized you. You are just an ape with a dick and a roll of dollar bills. So, since they know all you want is sex, this is what they believe, that all you want is sex. No matter how honest you are, no matter what your real intentions are, no matter your character, your integrity, whatever, they see you as less of a being. They think you can't love them, that you don't care about them for who they are. They just believe that you are doing and saying everything is one big act. You're just doing and saying what they want in order to get sex from them. When they believe this, the ones that believe this ultimate like morality thing, you'll see how they act. It's drastically different from a woman that doesn't fully believe it. There's women that have healthy skepticism, and then there are women that really believe that kind of dichotomy. So you have to watch out for them. What they'll do is basically they'll sell it to you. Okay? So it's just like any business person would tell you, right? Anyone that understands commerce and trade, she'll sell her vagina after she's received that down payment, like dinners, emotional support, and your time. But you'll notice that the more impoverished ones, the less educated and such, are more likely to just give it up on the first go around. They'll lure you into spending more to get it again. It's like a drug dealer, right? If you disagree, look at women in the more impoverished areas. Look at how quick they will sleep with a man of horrible standards, the lowest of the low, in hopes to get what resources they can from him by luring him under a spell of sexual bliss, while the upper class woman is going to reap benefits before providing us with any gesture. Because remember, they live in this idea that ultimately men just want sex in its most Darwinian, boiled down concept. So this gives them the excuse for their actions. I think I've read in their articles, I mean, after they've said, quote, after all men want is sex, so get while the getting's good. Shake that moneymaker. So really it comes down to a question of ultimate morality and where the nature between men and women really lies. Now, so we now know they have this horrible skepticism to the point where it goes from being skeptical to just flat out just hatred, right? Now, the other thing is, she must be the victim. Everything that you say and do and she says and does must ultimately boil down to her having a victim narrative. So in every case of a breakup or a regrettable connection that I've had, it's always ended with her expressing the feeling of being used, lied to, somehow hustled of her time, sex, attention, whatever. Now, I discovered this. I tested this hypothesis of being an honest man versus the silver-tongued liar, right? In the case of an honest man, being upfront about what I want in life, what I want in relationship, who I am, it's embarrassing. They literally don't, they're more skeptical of me being an honest man than they are of men that lie to them. Well, at least that's what I think. At least that's what I perceived, was that women were more skeptical of me because I was being honest, that they were like, it's almost too good to be true. No, 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 no. They're not skeptical of me being honest, okay? They just don't have a victim narrative to pull from it. Because if they were to decide that they liked me, go home, pull their panties down, stick their ass in the air, and say, have at it, big guy, what if it doesn't work out for them? What if their friends don't judge them to be a slut? What if society, the people around them in their work or whatever, or their social circles, frown upon her actions? Well, if she doesn't have a victim narrative to step back on, well then, well then, she's responsible for her actions. We already know that women don't like to be responsible for their actions. I mean, no human being wants to have to be responsible all the time, but in men's case, we understand the reality that you must be responsible for your actions and there are consequences. But in their world, that's victim blaming. Huh. Weird how the word victim just popped up again, huh? So they want to make sure that their choices, if they backfire, they can dodge that responsibility. So to test this out, I decided to approach women a little differently. Instead, I would be so obvious. I'd be slick and kind of flirty, and then, I'd even go so far as to confess love, right? To a woman that I tested this out. I had met a woman. I spent 1 hour talking with her about anything other than sex, goofing around, just talking about bands or whatever she wanted to talk about, right? But I controlled the conversation. I didn't just talk, what do you want? I didn't just pass off conversation to her and let her dictate what we were going to talk about. I instead controlled the conversation, but kept it in a topic that she would want to talk about. See, that's the trick. You're in control, but you're doing the thing she wants you to do. So she wants you to think you're in control, but she's getting what she wants from you while you're under the guise of being in control, which you're really not. To her, she wants you to think you are. It's a game of altruition. It's ridiculous. But once you understand that that's what they're doing, it's really easy to manipulate. Okay? You want them to think that you think you're in control, right? By doing what they want and being happy to do it because you thought of it first or you decided to do it. You suggested doing that thing, talking about that topic, whatever. So like, oh, this guy, look at Mr. Take Charge. Yeah, Mr. Take Charge, and he likes the things I like, and he wants to talk about the things I want to talk about. Huh, this guy's gonna be easy target, right? Then, what you do, this was in the 48 hours, so I did that. When we met again, I ended up getting her down to just her panties and her bra before I stopped. So I only actually spent 2 hours talking to this girl. The first hour was establishing this idea that I was easily controlled and manipulated because I thought I was in control but wanted the same thing she did, right? And then in the second hour was all about love and I'm attracted to her and I don't know why, but I just can't stop thinking about her, all these things, right? So she was more than happy to open herself up. After all, she already liked me, but since I gave her an easy out if her slutty actions didn't give her the result she was hoping for, well then she could just say that I told her what she wanted to hear, that I said I loved her. I mean, I'm so terrible. What an asshole. Now, I will say this. I did not actually go through with having sex with her. Instead, I stopped. Now, she was down to panties, ready to go, legs spread. She wanted me to take her pants off, and I was like, stop. She wanted me to take her underwear off. I was like, stop. And I explained to her that this was an experiment to see if I could get in the pants, get in a woman's pants, get her to drop her panties if I lied to her. If I lied to her, how easy would it be? So easy. And she wasn't mad at me for lying to her. She was mad that I saw through the game and she fell for it. She was mad that she wasn't in control of the situation when she thought she was. Now, most guys would be like, dude, why not? Why didn't you just fuck her, then walk away and take the knowledge with you, and you may as well have just got the benefit from it? Why? Because at that time, I actually wanted to help her a little bit and say, look, think about it. We've only met 2 days ago. We've only spent 2 hours in each other's presence, and look at you. You're already got your clothes off, ready to fuck me. You're ready to go. And why? Why are you ready to go? What did I say to you? I said I loved you? I've only spent 2 hours in your presence. We've only texted between now and then. We haven't spent any time together. And you actually believe that I love you? And she had to answer that. I said, do you really believe that I love you? Did you believe it? Or did you just need to hear that in order to do what you wanted? Naturally, she's like, well, I thought, I didn't know. I wasn't sure. Uh-huh. Oh, you weren't sure if I loved you or not? But since I said I loved you, you may as well go ahead and stick your ass in the air because, well, if he turns out to be a terrible asshole, I can say he lied to me. Instead of being responsible for their own actions and just, if they want to fuck a guy, go fuck a guy. Go fuck him. But no, see, because if it doesn't work out, if the word gets out about them or, they end up not connecting and people find, whatever it is. If people never even find out, she still wants to be the victim and make him feel bad because then she can reap benefits from him later down the road. Right? Or have a social out. So knowing this guy's going into it in the future, they're not irrational beings. Scientists have tried to describe it, chemically by measuring. Psychologists have tried to describe it by just the thought process. Here's the thing. We consider them irrational because their actions and their thoughts don't line up with reality. So that's why we consider them irrational. No. They understand reality. They just don't give a fuck. Because they can push their agenda, their ultimate goals, their aspirations onto you, use your back, use the sweat on your brow to achieve their means. And they will use irrational conversation, emotional responses, and things like that to keep you guessing. That's what they're supposed to do. It's a tool. Who here has ever had an irrational father? Right? He would irrationally punish you or irrationally, be angry over something so silly, so simple. But you were terrified, and you would ultimately do what he wanted, which was you would be home before dark or whatever the standard was that he set on you. You would follow it to a T because in your mind you were afraid of him. But why? Is it because he was the father figure, or is it because he was an irrational being that you were afraid to trigger? It's a form of manipulation, right? You're going to try to keep that person in a state of rationale in order to make sure things are manageable. If you mess up and they become irrational, you just throw your hands up like, well, shit, what do I do now? You just have to take the full blunt of it, right? So, it's not just a gender thing to be irrational. It's a social construct used to manipulate. So now women want to manipulate you with their irrational behavior, but they want to maintain a victim narrative when their actions require them to be responsible. When there's consequences, when things don't work out the way they hoped. That is the real nature. That is something that I've seen happen thousands of times. I've seen it happen to all sorts of guys, all my friends, and people I didn't even like. I've seen it happen to. It's been so bad. The irrational, what seems to be hatred and manipulation and just cruelness about them. I've had two of my friends, two of my high school buddies, have committed suicide in the last 5 years. Between the ages of 25 to 30, I've had to watch two of my friends die. Not watch die, but I've had to hear on Facebook when their funeral is. And then people are like, whoa, what happened? And then it comes out they committed suicide. Now, one of them, both of them I know had just went through a breakup. One of them I knew more about. I continued to talk to. One of them I had talked to only a week before he killed himself. He had, in his situation, this relationship, the perfect example for this was they got together right out of high school. They had a kid. They were dealing with emotional, financial stresses and things like that, right? But what made it hard for him was the up and down emotional roller coaster she would put him through, manipulating him with the child, manipulating him with guilt, and then getting him to give her money, getting him to put his life on hold whenever she suddenly needed something, and then when he would get tired of her bullshit, he'd try to walk away, she would guilt him back with the child, but then she would rip the child from him once he was back in the household and back in the life of the child and being when he thought everything was good again, she would just rip it apart again. As soon as she would help him mend his poor heart and then rip it out. And then guilt him into acting against that kind of treatment to where he would walk right back into it again. That's irrational. But it makes perfect sense if you're a woman or if you're just a partner, if you're someone that regrets the decisions you've made but needs to maintain a constant narrative of being the victim or of just being the one that has to regret. So she made it look like she was with a deadbeat man that was a crappy husband, a shitty father, and whatnot, and couldn't provide in order to keep him under her control, beck and call. Why? Why would she do that? What's the point in all that energy? Why would you waste so much energy trying to just do that? Why don't you just be content with who you are and what you have? Because she wanted more, but she knew she couldn't get more. So instead of getting a better relationship with a better man by her standards, she instead would just enjoy the position of power that she had over this other man. To the point where his identity and value in life as a man in society was so destroyed, was so distraught, that he found that just not existing anymore would be easier. That's why I'm MGTOW. This type of treatment towards men in relationships, it's lethal. It is actually lethal. It is not a harmless crime. It's not a victimless thing. It's not like smoking pot in your backyard, okay? This is actually something that has real repercussions and actually damages real lives. Okay? Honestly, I think that kind of treatment to men, men or women, it doesn't matter. Obviously, we see as wrong, but we get a speeding ticket because we might end up going because they're trying to stop us from going too fast and ultimately getting somebody hurt or getting ourselves hurt, right? Well, where's the repercussions for potentially, this man killed himself? It could have been avoided. It could have been stopped. I would talk to him, and I was dealing with my own emotional issues, with my wife doing the similar things to me at the time. She would make me feel like shit, and then she would make me feel like I was invited back in the house, and I'd be back with my daughter, and then she would try to rip me from my family again. And it was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It doesn't matter. They do it because they have to be the victim somehow. If you've given them a victim narrative, they'll use it, man. They will run with it. So I leave you with that, ladies and gentlemen. I leave you with that for now. There's more to come. Uh, Things will be a little bit simpler and more lighthearted, but I really wanted to get this off my chest. But yes, ultimately, let's boil it down here. A woman is always skeptical of men, so she dehumanizes you. That's why they get the ideology that it's okay to act the way they do towards you. And then, of course, she must always be the victim. So if you give her the opportunity to spin something to make her look good and you look bad, then she will continue down that path with you. Why do you think they stay with these abusive men? Why do you think, you hear every time you're with a girl, she talks so much crap about the guy she was with and how terrible men are? See, they've done this for so long, they believe their own lies. They really think that these feminists and these terrible misandrists, they really think this because they've been lying to themselves about men in order to make sure they were protected. They've lied so much, they believe their own lies now. Because at this point, they could never admit to it because that would what? Break the second law. Break the victim narrative. They can't do that. And if they were to start believing in men again, then they would break that first law, which is to always be skeptical of every man. Because if they did that, well, then they might get taken advantage of. Guys, these laws that they have, these like fundamental mentalities that they use, are so easily tricked and switched and manipulated that any guy that wants to be the asshole and take advantage of it sure can. You have the knowledge. I've put it out there. I'm not saying you should. Please, be a better person than that. But understand that guys, people are going to do what they do. There are people out there that are really terrible, and there are people out there that are just tired of being the victim, by being victimized, but then told that they're the oppressor. Anyways, this is MGTOW Jesus signing off. Thank you for your time. All right, you guys, take care. Comb your hair. Bye bye.